Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you. So today we're going to be covering Sky Strikers post-ban list and actually post-update of the secret pack that came out for them, which wasn't expected, but definitely welcome. And that was the addition of Sky Striker, Mobilize, Linkage, among a couple of other cards. Also the Surgical Striker H.A.M.P, and then Aileron, which we're not going to talk about because that card's not relevant. But this one in particular very much is. Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage. You can see I've immediately jammed 3 copies of this card in my deck right away because this is a very powerful addition for the deck. In addition to Sky Striker Ace Kagari going back up, well, back as in not in Master Duel terms. In Master Duel, it's been at 1 up to this point, but Kagari going to 2 as well. Between these two changes, and then also Widow Anchor going to 3 a couple of ban lists ago, I am much more excited to play Sky Strikers now. This deck finally feels like finished. It's not finished. There are more cards coming out for it still, but now it feels like, okay, this deck has enough tools that I feel it can really consistently compete with the meta decks right now. And I thought that was probably going to be the case just with this card going to 2, but that and also getting Linkage is huge. For those who aren't aware, Linkage, in addition to being a great starter if you don't open a Sky Striker Ace monster, is also capable of allowing this deck to OTK, and we'll actually show you a game where we pull this OTK off. It's very simple. All you need is Raye plus Linkage, and then your opponent to have no cards on board, which that sounds like a bit, you know, like, oh, you have to have nothing on board, but for this deck, that's actually not terribly difficult to accomplish. The other new card that we are trying out in this deck is Surgical Striker H.A.M.P, H.A.M.P. Even though it doesn't have it in the name, this card is always treated as a Sky Striker. Basically, this card I don't think I'm actually going to keep in the long term. It's basically a glorified, like, in-archetype kaiju. It's a little different from a kaiju. When it's destroyed by battle, you can blow up a card your opponent controls, so it's got that going for it, but the main way it's different from a kaiju actually makes it worse. You have to control a Sky Striker Ace monster, so to that point, you could almost, like, you could even make an argument that Gamma Seal is just better than H.A.M.P in this deck, because you don't have to have a Sky Striker Ace in order to get the kaiju effect. So like I said, I don't anticipate I'm actually going to keep this in the deck long term, but hey, I pulled a copy, it came out today, I figured, well, today at the time I'm recording this, I figured, why not, I'll try it out, so we're going to be including a copy for this build, but in future builds I'm probably just going to take it out. The rest of the build is actually pretty similar to what we had going on before we knew Linkage was going to come out, although this definitely does turn the whole deck upside down, very much so. But ultimately, so I did rebuild the deck from scratch. Ultimately, it stayed mostly the same. We're still a going second build. I'm still playing a Lightning Storm. I actually kind of want to play a second copy of this now that Linkage is out in order to, like, clear the opponent's board. So I'm probably going to end up dropping H.A.M.P for Lightning Storm, and that'll be the next change that I try. But there are a couple of cards that I've kind of, you know, might slot in instead. We'll see. But yeah, no, we're still definitely very much going second build. Actually, even more going second build now because we want to OTK on turn 2 with Linkage. You could play a Therion build. I haven't really gotten into the Therion cards myself just yet. I don't really have a whole lot of plans to, but Therion King Regulus, this is a card you could potentially include in Sky Strikers. It does act as a sort of like Omni Negate, so it's got that going for it. But I think the quote-unquote pure build of Sky Striker is better. I think it's more consistent, and I think it can, obviously with the Linkage, OTK much more consistently now. And it can actually OTK. It does all 8,000 damage in 1 turn. Previously, we kind of had to do like a 3-turn kill, where we kind of set up some damage with the Hayate on 1 turn, and then the following turn go for an Access Code kill. We do still have the option to Access Code in this deck. I do still have the Celine in the extra deck. It's not really needed as much anymore now that Linkage is out, but I didn't really have anything else that I wanted to play over it, so I decided to ultimately keep it in the deck here. The extra deck, yeah, has gone unchanged from how we planned on having it before we knew Linkage was coming out, but obviously Linkage is a very welcome addition to the main deck. I'm actually really stoked to be playing Sky Strikers now that Linkage is out and Kagari is at 2. This deck feels really good to play. And it's funny because when playing it in the past, I was like, it's kind of there. Especially like when Widow Anchor was at 2, when Kagari was at 3, and we didn't have Linkage yet. Like, the deck is like, I feel like it's almost there, but it just doesn't, like, it definitely felt like it was missing something. Now, playing this deck, I don't feel like anything is missing. That feeling has definitely left me as far as Sky Strikers go. I'm very eager to play this deck, just in general, moving forward, but Yeah, especially now that we have the linkage in here. So I'm going to go ahead and break this build down card by card, as I always do, and then we're going to take a look at some gameplay. I'll show you how we can OTK with this deck, and also how we can just, like, generate a lot of advantage now that Kagari is at 2. So we're playing 2 Effect Veiler, 2 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Maxx, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 3 Sky Striker Ace Raye, 2 Sky Striker Ace Roze, 1 Surgical Striker H.A.M.P, H.A.M.P, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, 1 Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburner, 1 Lightning Storm, 1 Sky Striker Airspace Area 0, 1 Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multirole, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Sky Striker Mecha Hornet Drones, 3 Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor, 1 Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon, 3 Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage, and then 3 Infinite Impermanence is going to round out the main deck there. Extra deck is going to be 2 Sky Striker Ace Kagari, 3 Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. I actually pulled 2 Royal copies while pulling for Linkage, so that was nice. We got 3 Sky Striker Ace Hayate, 1 Sky Striker Ace Kaina, 1 Sky Striker Ace Zeke, 1 Lynne the Light Charmer Lustrous, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Celine Queen of the Master Magicians, and then finally 1 Access Code Talker. And that is going to round out the extra deck and the list as a whole. Let's take a look at some gameplay. So the first deck that we're going to be playing against today is going to be Sword Soul Tenny. And like I mentioned in the deck profile, I wanted to start off by showing how you can OTK with this deck. So we will be taking a look at just that. Yep, looking at our opening hand here, this is very solid. This is what we love to see, in our opening hands here. This is, as I mentioned, a going second deck, so regardless of whether we win, well, I guess if we lose the coin flip, it's not up to us, but we usually go second. But if we win the coin flip, you want to pick going second anyway, because of hands like this. We're going to open, because of the amount of disruption we're playing, a lot of disruption. And of course, like I said, we want to be able to OTK on the second turn with the linkage plus Raye there. So I'm going to fire off a Maxx in response to my opponent's Moye here. Didn't open a Veiler and Imperm, otherwise I would have just done that. But the Maxx is definitely not a bad substitute as well. Drawing this Lightning Storm is an extremely good draw. And again, I am actually very much thinking about including a second copy even in order to help OTKs. So I suspect my opponent's probably just going to add a Blackout here. This is typically what Sword Souls do when you Maxx them in response to the Moye. And sure enough, they do. Just adding the Blackout, because it only gives me 2 draws and they still get a pretty decent setup. So I know they've got Chi plus Blackout. There's no way their face down card isn't Blackout here. So I'm going to start by activating Lightning Storm, and I'm going to destroy attack position monsters, because again, I know their face down card is Sword Soul Blackout, and I know they can't use it if they don't have a Sword Soul monster to target. So by getting rid of Chi, I kind of get rid of 2 birds with 1 stone there. I get to wipe the board of monsters, set up for my OTK, and I invalidate their back row. I'm going to activate this Area 0 here, and I'll set one of my 2 linkages to target with it, because I do still need to find a Sky Striker monster, the Raye in particular. Sure enough, we do actually manage to find Raye off of Area 0. That was fairly lucky of me, to be honest, but we also had a lot of different options to be able to draw it, right? We could have drawn the Raye, we could have drawn the Engage or the Rhoda for turn, and then off of Area 0, we have not only the 3 Raye, but also the 2 Engage. So with, 32 cards in deck at the time, I actually didn't have terrible odds to hit a Raye off of that Area 0 there, so. Opponent's going to fire off a Maxx, but I have the Ash Blossom still, didn't have to use that last turn, so I get to just use that in response here. And now I'm all set up to OTK. The only thing that could really, not even Nibiru could really stop me at this point, I don't think. No, because it'll be during the battle phase, right? So let me kind of walk through this step by step. And we will be doing all of the effects during the battle phase. So yeah, don't have to worry about Nibiru here. I'm going to start by normal summoning the Raye, moving to battle phase. Even though my opponent's at 8,000, yes, I'm just moving to battle phase with Raye, and then I'm going to smack them for 1,500 with the Raye. Now I'm going to use Raye's effect in order to summon the Shizuku. Now I get to attack directly with Shizuku and activate its effect. With Shizuku, I am specifically going to send Roze to the graveyard. And you do want to send exactly Sky Striker Ace Roze, because we want to have both a light and dark monster in the graveyard. If we have that, then we get to give our summoned Sky Striker Ace 1,000 attack points. And that 1,000 attack is very much going to matter. So at this point, we've hit them with the Hayate. They're now at 5,000, and we now get to use the Linkage's effect. I'm going to send this Hayate in order to summon Kagari. Now, Kagari's effect can add the linkage right back to our hand, and as you can see, the Kagari got a 1000 attack point boost again because I have both Roze and Raye in my graveyard. Linkage is also not once per turn, by the way. That's why we're adding it back with the Kagari. That's why this OTK works. It's why this card is frankly absurd. This card's really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to battle with the Kagari. You probably already see where this is going. We then activate the linkage once again. I'm going to send Kagari to summon another Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. That's going to get a 1000 point boost from the linkage because we still have both Raye and Roze in graveyard. And then that's going to be enough to put our opponent to lethal. We had 200 points over due to Kagari getting a few extra attack points from the Sky Striker spells that were in our graveyard, but even if you don't have any other additional boosts from the Kagari effect, that is still exactly 8,000 damage. So that's a very, very, very powerful line for Sky Strikers now. We were not able to OTK like whatsoever, except for like very, very rare and specific opening hands before Linkage came out. Now with Linkage, we definitely are a force to be reckoned with the ability to just outright win on our first turn. So yeah, there is the OTK, but we still got plenty more games to take a look at. Let's jump straight into the next one. This duel here is actually going to be against Speedroids, and I've never played against Speedroids before. I only know that they have like a ridiculous ability to board spam. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge of the deck. Going second, as always, is ever here. We open Maxx, Nibiru, and Imperm, so this is very nice. The opponent's going to start off with a Small World. I actually thought I was playing against Mech as soon as they activated this, but then they immediately started revealing some Speedroid cards. And actually, funnily enough, they use the Small World to not even grab a combo piece, but an Ash Blossom. But it's a very good ad for them because Maxx is definitely one of those cards that hampers them, I think, the most of any like disruption ability. So good ad for my opponent there. But yeah, so they're going to start off with the Terratop effect. I'm going to Imperm it and try to stop them from getting a search and force them, because I know they only have 2 other cards besides this Ash Blossom, so if I Imperm and negate this Terratop, I force them to have another Speedroid card here, which they do. I'm going to Maxx anyway just to make them use the Ash Blossom, just so that it's not a problem later. Again, that might have looked a little weird, but like I'm not really going to do anything else with this Maxx other than it's going to get Ash Blossomed, so yeah, I'd rather also have this Maxx get Ash Blossom now than have them Ash one of my searches on my turn when I try to make my plays, so. I'm also fine with the Maxx getting negated overall because I have the Nibiru anyway, so. Alright, they get to add another Ash Blossom with the Piper there. They get to add any excavating card. And then the Rubber Band Shooter is going to come out next. So I'm reading the effects here, right? I'm like, Rubber Band Shooter, and then, okay, they're going to, like, normal summon it. I could wait and see what they add, or I could just Nibiru now. And I'm just going to Nibiru now, because I know they have one card besides Ash Blossom. It's like, there's no way that one card is going to be enough for them to, like, get plays off, right? And surely enough, it's not, so. Yeah, definitely don't need to like overly complicate things there. I'll just Nibiru when the board is relatively clear there. So I started off by activating the Area 0 here, targeting the Nibiru. That might look a little weird, especially given that I know my opponent's got an Ash Blossom, but the way I see it, I activate this Area 0, target the Nibiru, and one of 3 things is going to happen, right? 1, they Ash Blossom, negate the effect, I keep my Nibiru. I'm fine with that. That's actually very, very good for me. 2, I Area 0, target Nibiru. I don't reveal anything that I can add. I keep Nibiru. That's fine. I can still battle over the token. 3, I activate Area 0, target Nibiru. I find a Sky Striker card, and then I have to destroy my Nibiru. And honestly, in that situation, the only Sky Striker card I don't think I'd want to find really is Engage, because I know it's going to get Ash Blossomed. Pretty much any other Sky Striker card, namely like Raye or Roze, I guess races if you combine those two, Raye or Roze, either of the aces, which I think I was also trying to say there, any of those I would love to have over this Nibiru here, because I can still battle, especially Raye, because I can battle over this token, tag into Shizuku, battle, send, then I can go into Kagari, and then like try to add the Engage, they'll negate it with Ash, and I can still Shizuku during the end phase, so very much looking for a Sky Striker ace here. I don't find any, that's fine. Like I said, I can still Nibiru and battle over the token, and I still got a 3000 attack monster that they have to contend with here. So, I also still have the Veiler in my hand no matter what happens, which can very likely stop them from making plays if they even have them going into their turn, which, fortunately for me, they do not. I did just draw another Imperm here, but that's fine. I'm just going to try to use the Area 0 again, because, you know, to me the circumstances haven't changed, right? I would very much like a Sky Striker Ace, but if I don't get one, or if my effect gets negated, I still have a 3000 attack beatstick in the form of Nibiru, so this is totally fine. I'll set this Imperm just in case they've got something, but they don't. They're just going to set a monster before passing, so this is the one game I played where the Surgical Striker was actually very nice to have here, just so I could battle for lethal. I'm going to Area 0 again, but this time I'll target my face down Imperm, because I am going to, like I said, try to go for lethal here. I get to normal summon the Raye, I'll put the Surgical Striker on their board in attack mode. Now I can just battle over with Nibiru, attack with Raye, and then tag into a Sky Striker Ace from extra deck, and then battle for lethal. So, yeah, that's the only game where I really actually got to, even summon the Surgical Striker. And again, all it did was give me an extra 500 points of damage. But, hey, I figured we did at least get one game in where we got it off and it was useful. So I might as well show that. But I will, again, of course, also add that I do plan ultimately on taking that card out of the build. So there's that game. Let's jump straight into the next one. Alright, this time we're going to be playing against Runic. Big, bad, scary Runic. Let's see how things go. This is actually an invoked Runic deck in particular that we're playing against. Once again, my opponent's going to be able to go first. I opted to go second. Opening Maxx and Ash Blossom, and Harpie's Feather Duster is pretty good here. So the opponent's going to start off with the Reasoning, and I'm going to Ash Blossom this. Now, I debated when this Reasoning got activated, and I'm even still debating now, should I have Maxxed or should I have Ash Blossomed? The main reason I even think about this is because I see that my opponent's playing a 40-card deck, and if my opponent's playing Reasoning with a 40-card deck, it's very likely to be a Runic variant, and if that's the case, I would rather have the Ash Blossom to negate a potential Hugin or Runic Fountain than the Reasoning here. I did ultimately decide to just outright Ash Blossom the Reasoning, because the other kind of end of it is, well, if I Maxx C, then they get to dump a whole bunch of spells in their graveyard, and if they've just got a Runic Fountain in their hand, then they get to just load their graveyard up, and they just get, a whole bunch of extra draws for, like, nothing. So it was very, very close. Like, I could really see it either way. It just really depends on whether I think they have the Runic Fountain in hand or not. And I think even if... My reasoning here was also that, like, even if they don't have the Fountain in hand and they have to Hugin, there's still other cards that could have to potentially out it. They could have, like, a Call by the Grave. They could have just another means of searching, like a Runic Tip or something like that. So I ultimately decided to Ash Blossom the Reasoning here. It wasn't an easy decision. I still don't really know which was ultimately correct, but they had a Runic Fountain in hand. So given that, then I think it was right to Ash Blossom the Reasoning. But again, I just didn't know that for sure. So I will definitely Maxx in response to this Monster Gate, though. I can tell my opponent's looking for Cyber Sign. If they're playing Reasoning and Monster Gate, like, if they're playing Reasoning, they don't always play Cyber Sign with it, but if they play Reasoning and Monster Gate, they pretty much always play Cyber Sign. And this is also why I didn't play Reasoning and Monster Gates in my build, is my opponent actually got really unlucky with, the Alistair being just exactly the top card of their deck. They got to send exactly 0 quick play spells, but, yeah, even if they got to send some amount of quick play spells, the fact remains that in Invoked Runic, you're so much more likely to hit an Alistair than the actual Cyberstein that I just don't think it's really worth even trying. Here my opponent just happened to get, like, super, super unlucky. Very, very good for me, but no, the opponent definitely got extremely unlucky here, as they only get one draw off of the Runic Fountain. They do get to go for a Baguska here, but that's fine, because I don't, I play a Link deck, I play Sky Strikers, so I don't care about, my defensive monsters being negated. I'm going to start off with a Feather Duster just in case they have any Runic spells they can use in hand. Well, they can no longer use those in hand. Yeah, my Raye gets turned to defense mode, but again, it's Sky Striker. Like, this Baguska's not going to do anything at all. In fact, I'm actually going to completely ignore it. I'm just going to go ahead and battle with the Hayate and set up the Engage and Graveyard, go for the Kagari, this whole rigmarole. Like I said, I can completely ignore Baguska. It does nothing to me. As far as what I'm going to add with Engage, I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I ultimately decided to add the Mecha modules. That way, when I use the Widow Anchor during my opponent's turn, I can either set back up the Widow Anchor if I feel the need to negate on my turn, if I feel like that's going to be relevant, or more likely, I'll just set the Engage. I actually did debate activating Widow Anchor this turn in order to add in order to set Engage with the Mecha module and then also add an Engage with Shizuku, but I decided that was pretty greedy, and I didn't want my opponent to be able to search out a Runic Fountain here. I want to be able to negate any Hugin that might have come down, so I ultimately decided it was definitely more worth it to keep the Widow Anchor. So here my opponent's going to activate another Reasoning, and because I know for sure I'm playing against Runic, I'm just going to call level 2. 2 is actually the level I've been blind calling with Reasoning, even though this isn't a blind call. 2 in general is what I've been calling with Reasoning if I don't know what my opponent is playing, but especially if they're playing a 40-card deck, because Cyber Sign is by far the scariest thing they could hit off of it, and that's what I definitely want to send. If it's a 60-card deck, then it's pretty much guaranteed to not be Runic. So in that case, I don't know. You could hit 1. You could call 1 rather than try to hit the Infernoid Decatron. You could call 10 to try to hit the Eldritch monster. You could call 4 because that's just like generally a good level to call. You can make an argument for any number of them. But if it's a 40-card deck, and also if I know it's Runic, I'm always calling level 2. So that was actually a pretty funny interaction there as well. The Ghost Spell on the Invocation. You might have been like, wait, you can Ghost Spell an Invocation even if they're just activating it from hand? And the answer is yes, because Ghost Spell states that you can negate the activation of a card that includes any of these effects, but they don't have to actually be activating any of them. So because Invocation includes an effect that adds a card from graveyard to hand, I can negate the ability to fusion summon outright with it with this Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion. The opponent's going to get a Runic Freezing Curse as well. They're just going to summon a Runic monster. I don't care about that at all. Looks like they're going for Jerry to try to add back a Runic Fountain, even though they don't have another Runic spell to play. But all the same, I'm still going to Widow Anchor this here. I actually maybe should have Callbide first. I really did debate doing that, but I ultimately just was just like, no, I'll just Widow Anchor, and then during the end phase I can use the Multiroles effect. Yeah, so here they're going for Duragest, the Timeless. And I guess they're just desperate at this point. I don't really know what they're digging for here. They did actually get another Runic spell, so there is that. They get another Jerry ultimately here. And even though I added the Ash Blossom and I could just negate any draws they're not going to get off the fountain anyway, I decided to just inflict them with Ultimate Despair and activate Callby on their Jerry and Graveyard, thus negating the one that is on board. So at that point, I've actually managed to completely grind the Runic player out of their resources, which is exactly what I, as the control deck, want to do. And at that point, they just surrender. So definitely a nice win there. We've got one more game to look at. Let's jump straight into it. And our last game here is going to be against a 60-card Dino. It's Dino/Dinomorphia, which I know it's like, yeah, of course, all the Dinomorphia monsters are dinosaurs, but they're playing Dinomorphia stuff and they're also playing general dinosaur support, is what I mean by that. So as always as ever, we're going to give our opponent the first turn. We open Ash and a Ghost Spell, so that's pretty nice. I see a Fossil Dig. I'm just going to Ash Blossom that. That's especially true given that my opponent's got a 60-card deck. Anytime my opponent is playing well above 40 cards, I generally like to negate any early searches because it's that much less likely that their hand is going to be gas. I generally do that against most decks, but yeah, a turn 1 Fossil Dig against a 60-card deck, I'm just going to... Yeah, turn 1 Fossil against a 60-card deck, I'm just going to Ash Blossom it. So they've got the True King Lithosagam here, and they ultimately... I'm kind of confused, actually, by what they send here. Well, I'm not really confused. I understand they were sending my access code line. I just don't really... I guess that is probably the best thing you could hit, right? Because, like, what else are you going to hit? Like, you know, these or like whatever, and then I have multiple copies of all the other Sky Strikers. So okay, I get it. I get why my opponent did what they did, but it's ultimately not going to really impact me too much there. I thought actually they were going to go for a Geomathmech Final Sigma when they normal summoned that Ash Blossom, and I thought that's why they got rid of the access code line, was so that I couldn't battle over it. But no, they're just going to wait for a Vert Anaconda and just go for a DPE, which is so fine. That is a-okay with me. Again, I thought a Mathmech Sigma was coming down, and I'm like, oh, how am I going to deal with this? DPE, on the other hand, that is much easier to deal with. I actually do technically have the means to OTK here with the Rhoda plus the Linkage. The problem is that I just don't really have a way to clear my opponent's board, mainly to clear their DPE. If I could just get rid of this, then the Vert in attack mode would be fine because they're at 6,000 life points. But yeah, ultimately with DPE and defense mode, I'm just not going to be able to clear that out. So I'm going to go for the Raye here, and once they activate DPE's effect, I'm going to go for Kaina, because I know they're trying to blow up whatever Sky Striker ace I summon, and Kaina is definitely the one I care the least about. Plus, I get to, as a bonus, keep this DPE from potentially attacking. Although, maybe that doesn't work because the DPE... Well, no, it's not going to leave the field, because they already blew up their own vert, so never mind. But anyway, I'm just going to go for Hayate here, battle directly, set up my graveyard, and the cool thing is, I actually get to double engage here, so I get to send one engage with the Hayate. I already have one in hand. Now I'm going to Kagari, add an engage, activate one for a Multirole, then activate the Multirole, use the second engage to get a search and a draw. I'm just going to generate a ton of advantage here. Yeah, because now I've got 3 spells in my graveyard, so now I get a search and a draw. I even, well no, I searched this strike can. I was gonna say I even drew it. No, I drew the second Widow Anchor, that's what it was. I knew I drew another, like, really awesome response. So, yeah, basically at the end of that I get to reset one of my Sky Striker spells for my grave, probably just my engage again, and then I get to set 2 Widow Anchors and a Shark Cannon, and I've got a Ghost Spell in hand, and I get to Shizuku, to search for, I don't know, whatever. So, like, my opponent had nothing in hand. There was no way they were ever coming back. Like, I have multiple negates, I have a graveyard banish, I can search for whatever I want, I get to get another search during the next turn as well. So, yeah, it was just over at that point. So, those are the games. Now let's go ahead and move to the outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me. Not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There, for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack, you'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation, you do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now, so without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.